So
Right.
always, it's always something, man. It's always
Yeah,
something.
likewise us, we've got a total error alert, like 103 bad items in the air, and respiratory people should not go outside.
Right.
Steve, how are you, sir? Ed, I'll give you a call after this meeting. I've got something I need to discuss with you. Something
Okay.
good. That sounds like, but something, it's an opportunity. What's the word, Steve?
Life.
Life. Yeah, life comes at you fast. Andy, great to see you. Andy and I are going to be spending some significant time together today.
Yep.
Oh, the box is coming, George.
There are lots of, we are essentially, we're 98% packed. We were just doing a little inventory this morning, and yeah, everything's going smoothly.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. 3 days. Right? Today's Tuesday. Yeah, 3
Yes.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys, let me show you something. Anybody have a topic they came especially excited to talk about this morning?
I came to hear you talk, George.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve. I'm honored.
I'm anxious to see this level 2 questionnaire.
Yeah, I'd be happy to show that. I was actually just giving a demo. Not of that, not of that, but of this. Okay. Yeah, there's because I posted, all I can show is what I showed last week. They're doing the scoring this week, so we'll have the scoring place. So we're getting real close. I'll share my screen though. I'm happy to give a quick, where are we here? Boop. David, good morning. Barry.
Good morning.
So avert your gaze. I'm just going to jump into, here's a demo. No. Reports, demo, clarity level 2. Boom, I'm in. You can see it's a growth capacity. Clarity level 2. It's exciting, man. You see me smiling a lot because we're getting tantalizingly close. Level 1, people are getting, people are generating really good stuff with level 1. Okay. Level 2, what do we have? We have the 3 dimensions. This is all dynamic. The things that aren't here are the scoring, and then some cosmetic stuff. So if I click on effective senior leadership, I can jump on strong SOPs. I can go from one dimension to the other. You can go wherever you want. Okay, but let's run this as a in line. We have effective senior leadership. It has 7 growth driving. It has 7 key results under this growth driving objective. Cosmetics, we're going to make this text larger, this text a little smaller, and we can score them, and move to the next. What we have, so for each growth of the 25 growth driving objectives, 24 plus time to market, we have a score, and we have an ROI. The ROI we're going to round, so it's not going to say 41. We don't have to explain $41 to our clients. We have to invert these colors. So current performance is green. Best case is blue. And this is the return on investment for creating an effective senior leadership team. Does it mean that someone will write a check for $375,000? No. But it does mean that is accretive. $375 of company-specific risk has been neutralized. That's what it comes down to. And very exciting, guys. And I am flipping fired up. We are working on extrapolating from the strategic capacity score, 48, 52, extrapolating a discount, which means that we can use the score to run a discounted cash flow valuation of the business. And that'll take some testing, but that's what we are doing. And that's Ed laughing. That's pretty cool, huh?
That'd be great if it's practical.
Yeah, it'll be totally practical. So it'll
Hey, George,
Go ahead, David.
Are you gonna come up with like a discount rate, like from this? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what we would do and run a forward-looking pro forma saying, okay, well, so imagine if we can tweak the score, which will tweak the discount rate, which will do a discounted cash flow value for the business. And we can start running a pro forma looking forward. So here it is if we stay at a 57. Here it is if we increase to a 62. Here it is if we increase EBITDA. So we can start turning dials and helping the client understand some pretty sophisticated, investment banker level, well,
Yeah.
fractional investment banker light, but some pretty sophisticated perspective on the impact that operations has on the business. So and then there are some other things on which we're working.
Hey, George, before you get off that one,
Yes, sir.
you and I talked a little bit about this, but along with conjuring up a discount rate, can you conjure up some modification of a multiple as well?
What do you mean by modification of a multiple?
Well, you look at the distribution of the multiples, it's the low end and the high end, and
Sure.
based upon your strategic capacity, you're someplace in there. So
Yeah.
just to be able to pinpoint, based upon the NAICS number and yada, yada, what.
Oh, so
what
you'd say,
multiple ought to be.
Sure, that's interesting, Steve. So be able to say, okay, well, your score is a 62, so your multiple would be, it's not even your score though, because when we get into there, we have to get into growth capacity. We have to get into strategic capacity in detail, getting into the growth aspect and the value aspect. So that's interesting, Steve. I think that's one that we will, yes, is the long-term answer.
I mean, it seems about as doable as coming up with a discount rate based
Well,
upon.
if you know the discount rate, I mean, you could make assumptions and come up with the multiple from that. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got to have some data references in order to make it meaningful. Otherwise, just with the DCF is only going to look at valuation from one perspective. But it won't reflect the market multiple transactions. So you're going to need a source for the market multiples, i.e. our friends on the East Coast that have that.
Yeah, and we do have market multiples. So okay, well we're getting into the arcane, but yeah, I've written it down. I got the white pen. I've written it down, Steve. In fact, I'll give it a.
Can you have that done next week?
Whoops. I don't think so.
Okay.
But what I
Thanks.
can have next week is this stuff scored. So that when we go to the analysis dashboard, we're starting to see not just the score is what drives the ROI calculation, and you'll start seeing scores. This is obviously still a wireframe. The guys are coding. We're talking every day, and they're coding this right now. So we have the scoring methodology. We simply now they're putting it into the code, and then we'll get into the reports, and away we'll go. So this is an iterative update on clarity, but you're about to see a great leap forward, said Mao Zedong. Cool. Any questions?
Like the looks.
Thanks, man. This is gonna be great. I just did a demo and with two practitioners, and they were over the moon. They were very, very excited and will be joining the community.
George, you know my personality. I'm bubbling on the inside.
I'm already Boolean.
George, could you just give us an insight into what sort of reports are you thinking about?
Sure. So we have our strategic plan template, and so that template will be Larry. Good morning.
Good morning.
So that template is going to be generated. There's a report and there's a plan, and that'll be the first. And now behind the scenes, you will be able to sort the report based on score, ROI, dimension, etc. So get pretty granular in how we're sorting this information. And then this summer, API, so we'll be able to export it as a doc. That's coming right up. That's being built right now. It saves all of your work instantly. So the moment we click this, the system saves it. There's no submit button. You're submitting by clicking. That's good, which means internet goes down and you still have, you don't have to start from scratch with your client. So export it as a PDF, as a doc, export the data as a .csv. And for the uninitiated, exporting as a .csv allows us to upload it into a CRM, into Monday.com, into Session Lab, feed it to AI, which we're about to talk about. But there's a lot that that by exporting as a CSV makes it incredibly dynamic. And API connection to Monday.com, to anything. We'll have API outputs from level 1 and from level 2, which will allow you to connect it either directly or using Zapier. And we will have tutorials on this, guys. You'll get instructions. I know I'm speaking a little bit of Greek here, but you'll be able to connect it to Monday.com, to 90.io, to any one of a number two. Now imagine taking your level 1 data and having it automatically feed a HubSpot workflow. So Andy finishes level 1 on Steve's website. Steve gets an email. Andy gets a little, an intrigue report, a summary report, and it triggers HubSpot to start dripping on to Andy with Steve's content. That is mother loving cool, right? So we can start a marketing. That's cool. So those are the kinds of things.
Yep.
Those are examples of what this will do, which is absolutely unique. Go ahead, Andy.
And I guess a daft question: Will it be exportable into a Word document?
Yes, that's not a daft
so you'll have
that's the
Word. Okay.
Yep.
And that's good to know
Probably.
because I like to cut and paste
Yes.
and create my own customized report. And so
Yeah.
that's great.
Editable documents.
Yeah.
Editable documents. By the way, guys, that's been a design criterion since my first conversation with the engineers. Here's what it has to do. It has to do, there's several must-dos. I have not tested it exporting as a .doc, but they have, and I haven't seen it yet, but they have, and they're just nonchalant about it. So, it's
Great.
what we're buying. Now it's interesting, and when we start talking about AI, now we have a document, and imagine being able to, because OpenAI has APIs. Ooh, well, what does it look like if we can then say, hey, ChatGPT, what should we consider when we're building a plan for a company of this size in this industry and in this city? We can start asking some really cool questions. And I'm launching a conversation that I'm not going to talk about behind the scenes, but I'll tease it, that I think will make everybody very happy. Not about AI, but about some pretty cool functionality. I also published on, I'll show you a couple of things here while we're kind of talking around this. What am I looking for? You guys are in the way. Let's move your pretty faces. Created an events calendar. And the events calendar, guys, has been laid out. Monthly opportunities. So at least once a month, there are opportunities to learn, right? So we're talking about this coming right up. Client meeting facilitation skills. Andy, I just published it. I haven't discussed it with you yet. Andy and I are working on this together. So I don't know if these dates are, let's just placeholder. there are a bunch of learning opportunities out here. The launch course is coming up. We're starting to put butts in seats for that. People are continue to be excited. We'll talk about how to win new engagements, biz dev, focusing on COIs and CEOs. They're different conversations. We have our certification in October. We're going to do, I pulled the trigger. We're going to do a facilitation masterclass, an intensive workshop on the day prior to the summit in Fort Lauderdale. They've got the space. I'm signing that contract today, by the way. So be excited, guys. Fort Lauderdale, we're going to have a ton of fun. And it's a summit. It's a standalone summit. It's a standalone summit. We're going to have 3 days. It's afternoon of Monday, all day Tuesday, morning of Wednesday, and we're going to cover a wide range of topics. I, in fact, love to talk through that this morning a little bit, and then we'll close out the year. There's another launch course. I think we pushed that into January. So I think we'll cap out the year with a 4-hour M&A prep that'll be put on by an investment banker. What is our role as business advisors when we're trying to get our client, help them to successfully cross. There's no such thing as a finish line, but to successfully complete an M&A transaction. And we all know that doesn't mean they're necessarily leaving, et cetera, but how do they successfully access the private capital markets? That's what it comes down to. So a lot going on, man. Rolling stone gathers no moss. On top of this, we're going to do 2 additional things. We are going to have a podcast series. That's super easy. These are going to be half-hour conversations with you guys. And I'm going to put it back out there and start pushing harder. Once a month, we'd love to give you guys the microphone. Who wants to present on topic X, Y, or Z? And please, we'll have some criteria, right? It has to meet certain criteria, but, feel free to share your expertise with the community. So then we have twice a month, we're having a formal, and as we get people into the habit of participating, we record them. If you're putting on a presentation, it has legs, right? It goes onto YouTube, it goes into our video library. So all for the good. Any questions? Because selfishly, I'd love to talk about this again. This is our November. So we started, was that just last week? Or was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we talked about we just sketched. Does the theme best practices for a 3-year growth engagement make sense to you guys? It's exciting to me because we're starting to take a longer term than a snapshot. We're starting to look at what are the various, it gives us a lot to work with. And this is where most of the community wants to end up, is in long-term engagements. And whether you're we use the Francis Brown scale, whether you're a 1 or a 5, the long-term health of our clients is what we're all focused on. And so we will, let's not worry about the prequel right now. So the morning of Monday, if you imagine that on Sunday, we run an all-day workshop on facilitation skills.
Does that start at 8 or 9 or?
That'll start at 8, yes. We'll run at 8 to 5 with lunch. And so the course is structured. The first online version is explaining, as we do with the launch course. It's the same duration as the launch course. So we're going to explain facilitation skills, and we'll do it'll be interactive to the extent that we can make it interactive and online. And then in Fort Lauderdale, we'll do the demonstrate and imitate portions. I'm borrowing Andy's language. but the demonstrate and imitate portion of the course where we're going to get into small groups, roll up our sleeves. And I already have 3 people who have said, I'm in. If you are willing to commit to being there, and there'll be a it's not free, but you know, if you would be interested, let me know. Just shoot me an email. Okay. So then, Steve, borrowed your term, bottom line up front. Let's talk about an integrated approach to leading engagements, collaboration. It's integrated in 2 directions. One, collaborating among advisors, and working on the business holistically. We have an analyze, a design, and an execute. We could do 3 case studies, maybe only 2, you know, depends. But we already have these cases written. So I'm going to be tapping people saying, hey, if you're coming down, would you be willing to present your case? And then on Tuesday, we'll start the day with a workshop where we'll break into groups, and we're going to solve a specific, and I have some ideas about this. So what do you think of having, if we're 30 people, 40 people in the room, of having 3 different scenarios on which we work, and breaking into small groups and working through the scenario using clarity. Okay, and if you imagine that being the morning, all right, the key goal is to know each other, get better at a collaboration. By the way, we have, I think we already have a dozen people who have orally committed to being at the conference, and my goal is 30 with a home run being 50. Would love, our biggest conference prior to the pandemic was 52. So, so let's, 30 is a good size working group. 50 would be fantastic. So in the morning we break into groups, we get intensive with working with clarity and have some fun, right? And we'll have some fun. And then after lunch, we will get into, I think we'll end up sliding these around. How do we then take what we've created and apply the right AI prompts to generate, and what does that look like? And again, workshop it so that you guys get some experience working with prompts, discussing prompts, see how different, what different prompts deliver, and we'll do, at the end we can have some fun. We'll maybe judge the outputs. We can have some fun. Does that make sense? See a lot of pensive looks. Larry?
And do that you're saying do that in a creative, kind of competitive way?
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Couldn't that be fun? Right?
Yeah. Well, that's if your definition of fun is getting a group of people together as consultants and play with AI and see who has the best AI. If that's your definition of fun, this is fun.
That is my definition. I'm a geek. We'll have some fun.
I just want to make a quick comment. Why so much on AI suddenly? What we're doing is a part of companies growing is innovation, and innovation is always there through the generations, but certain times it pops up being a bigger driver or dimension than other times. And I think right now we're seeing that for a number of reasons, but AI is driving that. And for our clients, and this is something I've been talking to them about, and I'm not an AI content expert, but for them to embrace something is to get ahead in the market. It's a competitive edge. And I think we need to be sharp in our understanding of it. So I think we're going to be learning a lot until then, including your AI session coming up. So I think it makes sense from my view.
Yeah, thank you, Larry.
George, are you bringing an expert in to guide that conversation?
Yes, I'm getting a gentleman named Barry Goodman.
What?
What? Wait, what?
Although I started using it on something I'm doing, and it's I found it quite fascinating.
It is absolutely fascinating, and And that is a great idea, Barry. I just, once we settle on the topics, I can dig in. And I think that's an excellent recommendation. Steve, go ahead.
Couple things. One, I forgot to do my action item that I had from last week or the week before on AI. So I just wrote it down again. Two, I was thinking about this and I didn't bother sending you a message, but if AI is going to be a big piece of our life, which it is,
Yep.
I wonder if maybe you could make an AI place for people to put stuff that they find useful or interesting for AI.
Absolutely.
And number three, just, oh, by the way, I had a spreadsheet of stuff from a business that I'm trying to list, asset list. And although I like GPT better than Bard, I went to Bard and just went through the spreadsheet, and because I needed to come up with current values, need to value the assets. So I went through the list, and Bard actually did a pretty decent job of giving me guesstimates, which is good enough for what my purposes. Oh, by the way, that's another use case.
That's fantastic. And I have found, so Chat, Bard, and Bing, different answers to the same question. And it behooves us to, you're going to get more familiar with writing prompts for one or the other, but putting the same prompt into those three systems gives you a different answer. And then one of the skills we need to develop as advisors is how do we then refine, how do we have a conversation, right? It's not the first prompt is one answer, but then as you start having a conversation with this artificial, it's generative AI, right? We're just talking to a machine. But as we get better at asking the right questions, which is, by the way, a facilitation, that this is at the heart of facilitation. So,
and you hit the nail on the head there. The way, I've been playing with this for a while now, and I'm sure others that do, but that's how I treat it. I'm just sitting here having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
And if I think the person on the other side of the table needs a little more explanation for them to give me a good answer, then I provide that, and their answer gets better, blah, blah, blah. So.
And I would bet that Andy is probably the most knowledgeable among us when in terms of AI. I know that you've gone deep down the rabbit hole, Andy. I mean, I'm using it a lot, and finding out where it works and where it doesn't work. And we're already seeing people get jaded about AI. There are already articles about how it's becoming a little bit of a slur. What, did AI do that? God, that took all of 5 minutes. But Andy has deep and has actually shared some prompts that are a list of prompts that are fantastic. So there's this as a discussion as a group with 30 people in the room, and people, by November, we will have a lot of experience, a lot more experience. And to hit on the point that Larry made, here I am, I'm in dimension 2. I've clicked on innovation. And if we look at the last question, somebody asked me, well, you need to have something in, well, this was already here. This is in the book. Oh, God, I got to show you something pretty cool about the book. The business uses technology and automation as a force multiplier. Thank you, Mr. Weevil, ensuring that it creates and maintains a competitive advantage going into the future, right? So AI is in here, but so is a lot of other stuff. And what I'm guessing, we already have AI in, when we say, hey Siri or Alexa or Google search, there's already a ton of AI going. Amazon, behind the scenes is using AI. It's that harnessing of the AI that is going to be valuable, literally and figuratively, for our clients. And that's why that's what this question is crafted to capture, if artfully or not.
George, I just thought of this. I was reading an article this morning from McKinsey. It was talking about how technology is affecting the agricultural industry, specifically farming, and because the costs are going up and very significantly. And it talked about, and I haven't gotten through it yet, you know, how AI is being used in the farming. It'd be interesting to have a conversation around how AI is being used today in various industries.
It would be really interesting. The farming example is, guys, if you look at the integration of AI and location GPS, what they're doing, if you just go to John Deere and do some research on the John Deere website, it is mind-blowing what they're doing. Thanks for bringing that up, Barry. Absolutely. I bet it was a cool article.
Well, it was, I almost missed our call because I was engulfed in the article. It was a very fascinating article. I'd be more than happy to share it with the group.
The efficiencies they're getting into, you know, the minerals in the soil, the humidity in the soil, when to plant, when to fertilize. They have, you know, very, very specific, what are we killing? What are we not killing? How do we minimize the use of pesticides? How do we create sustainability? John Deere is all over this stuff. It's super cool. Anyway, there's another.
John Deere is quite familiar with John Deere. They're off the charts as far as how they're integrating technology into all their stuff. But it even talked about, I mean, the biggest cost in that industry is fertilizer.
Yep.
And the efficient use of fertilizer, and to your point, even weeding, and it's just.
So imagine, guys, imagine a tractor that is cruising down the field. Nobody's at the helm, and it has sensors. And this is being used right now. It has sensors, and it says, "Oh, thistle killer. Oh, look, dandelion killer." And it's actually identifying and spot treating so that the amount of fertilizer is absolutely minimized, which is good for so many reasons. And you don't want to get me started on the cost of food, but how do we prevent people from going to bed hungry?
As long as
those are herbicides.
Those are herbicides. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Ed.
as long as there's not a drone flying overhead and looking down and saying, "Hey, Steve, a Steve killer."
Give it time, Steve. Okay, so maybe some case presentations on AI in industry. That would be fascinating. Case AI in industry. Okay, that would be absolutely fascinating. And if we jump back to our November, where'd it go? Yeah. There we go. So that could actually go in this slide as well. It's going to be fun. I'm really, yes, my idea of fun is standing in a room talking about this stuff with you guys. Well, not me talking, listening to you talk about it. Then we talked about Wednesday. This is the name EOS, etc. But what are third-party BMSs? How do other thought leaders intersect with the growth drive system? And I think that this is probably would be a fantastic panel discussion. So we have a big block of time allocated here. For some reason,
George, do we have any EOS people in our community right now?
we have a few, yes. We do. We have a few. And, you know, with all respect to EOS and traction, how do we, so if we meet an EOS implementer, how can we benefit their client and you know, work with, collaborate and benefit their client, et cetera. And that'd be a fun conversation to have as well.
I think you need to look at, you know, whether the EOS implementer or a 90IO would be far more synonymous with an assist to us. The EOS people may be client leads, but the 90IO function would multiply our impact of recommendations, timely follow-up, and execution by outside parties and clients as we try to work on timelines and our Gantt chart to make sure that we stay on target.
Yeah. Ed, I'm happy I'm recording this. That's good stuff. Thank you. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm thinking that Ed, you're absolutely right. There are a number of software tools associated with strategic and leadership execution systems. So those could be looked at, if you like. But I'm thinking, George, how about if you go broader and use this opportunity, and we've got time between now and then, to think about not only where the thought leaders intersect, but what growth tools, what strategic tools are out there that could be boxed up into a growth drive toolbox. So you've got thought leaders, and then you've got strategic tools like I know Porter's five forces, the Ansoff matrix, taking tools that the community think, or we think, are applicable to growth drive, and then putting them in some form of growth drive toolbox, which people can have access to. Does that make sense? So you just broaden that discussion out, but use it to launch a toolkit that goes along with growth drive.
Yeah, I would second what Andy's saying. I mean, I'm probably several on the call are doing it, but I'm doing that myself, as I'm sure Andy is. So a little group effort would be a wonderful thing.
Okay.
And really what I'm hearing, Andy was not at George, Andy was not at the session in February in Charleston, where we ended that last half day with looking at all the different tools and methodologies in different categories, right? We looked at the EOS execution management category. We looked at the financial tool category. We looked at the just general business. And we made a list. And I think this session is born out of that. It's really taking it to the next level. And how do they interact or connect with us? And how do they compete with us? And how do we build it in, as Andy, you just said, into the toolkit? So that's where I thought this was born out of, that Charleston discussion.
And that I put that slide is in circle, guys. It's probably in the tool. We have a tool shed. It's in the tool shed.
I think I've seen that, Larry, and that was great. But I'm thinking that the end deliverable here would be it's a membership. Another thing to add to our membership value proposition, that along with growth drive comes a tool set, an aggregated tool set that you can dip into and dip out of. Yeah. And it's there for you, templated. It's it's all there in circle, or wherever we decide to put it.
And you guys are probably thinking along these lines, but if you look at the 3 dimensions of growth and the various, senior leadership, blah, 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 if we could map the tools to each of those issues as well.
Absolutely. So I would go even further and say, look at the growth drive and analysis, design, execute 3 phases, and you could drop tools appropriate to each of those 3 phases.
Yeah.
That's how I would see that, right, sort of maybe being set out. Then software to capture software that and this would be, it wouldn't just be a list of software, but it would be software that we know that had been vetted, if you like, to be appropriate to drop in a growth drive plan into, or what, in the way that we see it.
Well, and guys, what this will feed, what I really love about this is when we talk about APIs, what we can't, I mean, you can API out to whatever the heck you want, but what is the best practice? And that's not something we'll know the answer to, which we'll know the answer on day one. But that's something over time to which we can develop the answer. And out of this session, we can say, right, maybe we ought to be providing not only the how, the why and the how, but really some instruction on, okay, you want to use profit sense. Here's how they intersect. Here's how it benefits, etc. And we are going to, it is on the dev roadmap. We are going to build some numbers, some CFO-esque number crunching or number tracking capability into the system. And that's something that's bubbling along in the background, right?
George,
I'm
can
making eye contact with one of you.
Go Andy, and then I'll go, just when.
can I just
please.
share something with you in terms of what I'm thinking about in this box here, just as a visualization for everybody who can can knock it down or whatever or build on it. Can I just show you? If you allow me to share, just show you something
Sure.
very quickly.
Sure, I'm
2
just
seconds.
going to participants, and you are Andy Moore, co-host. Boom. I'll stop sharing. Okay, Andy, you
Okay.
should be able to share.
Just very quickly show you what I'm
Guys, I
working.
love these sessions. This is my favorite meeting of the week, so thank you.
Oh, this is taken from a management consulting sort of presentation, but when I talk about toolkit, I'm not saying we cover all of these, but this is what my mindset is thinking on. You've got tools, you've got templates, you've got step by step by them, maybe video tutorials on how-tos, which you're already doing, real life examples, best practices, and frameworks. That would, whatever we define here is called a toolkit. And then associated with the toolkit is, and this is taken direct from Metronomics, just to show you an example, a visual example of how the thought leaders are built into that process. But we do our own for Growth Drive. And this is how they look at that. They take each of their major drivers, which are strategy, culture, execution, cash, and so on, a bit like scaling up, really. And then around the outside, they put thought leaders, which are applicable to each area. Now, we could do our own Growth Drive version of that. And so the two end results of the box that we're looking at would be, a toolkit, which consists of something like that. I don't know, those inputs, and a thought leadership process, which is matched into Growth Drive in the various elements of Growth Drive that we want to put it in, either the 3 dimensions or through analysis, design, and execute. And then we've got it all together, and that would be, for me, the sort of output of that discussion in the conference that you've just talked about. Does that make
Very
sense?
It does. Yeah, guys.
Just do our own versions of it.
That's really good,
I had-
Andy. That the visual of it is important.
Yes.
As well. And I think there's one more visual similar to that, is, if not for us, not any of us on this call, because we are very seasoned, but people newer to Growth Drive, to this type of consulting, is understanding, because it's a lot of noise, all these, and we know that. And Barry, you were there. Steve, I'm not sure if you were there in February in Charleston when we ran this session, and we took all the noise and we organized it, all to capitalize and profit sense. And,
Yes.
but what makes Clarity unique, it sits in the middle of that hub in many ways, because it's the only truly valued holistic approach to looking at the business fully. All the others are looking at one of, right, Andy, one of the scaling up 4 areas.
Yes.
And this is what we have, is the only one that sits in the center holistically.
And agree. That's our huge differentiator, that holistic, integrated systems approach view of a business. Nobody, and in the 3 dimensions, of course, nobody's doing that. There's always a bit missing.
So I'd like to add on to something and maybe think about this, and I don't know how it applies to the Growth Drive presentation, but in the EOS world, we try to do is teach a tool in that 90-minute session. Okay, so when I start EOS with a new client, we'll have a kind of a workshop-y format in which we'll talk about some of their pain points, and we'll teach them a tool in a very rudimentary way, but you kind of want to get them to. So what tool would you think that 90% of the time the client would use out of that toolbox, and get a very short version of that you can take the executive team through, so they can experience you as a facilitator, but also experience the power of the tool in a very, short but beneficial way. So we do that with organizational structure. We go through every organization has four boxes for roles, and you have a marketing, sales, you have operations and finance, and you have an integrator. Every single organization has those four things. You're a company of one, you play a role in all four things. So that's a really good aha from an EOS process. What do we have from the growth drivers that 90% of the time we use this tool as a teaser in that presentation. So you kind of have a little bit of leave behind, but then your responsibility is to present a topic and get you in a teaching mode, and also being seen as the local expert. I think that would be really beneficial to think through, taking Andy's ideas and tools, take one and really just sort of give them a flavor of what they might get if they buy in on the whole process.
Interesting, Joe, because my brain was screaming flash report.
Joe, I would say, my first thought to that would be, what our tool would be the 3 dimensions, because here you will be using that tool to open up the business owner's eyes to the possibilities, the potential of their business. How high is high is the question here. Well, how high is high is if actually you take a journey and you end up through all the 3 dimensions. But you're more probably likely to be at the rocket fuel stage, and so probably it's going to be in this area, and we can look at that through Clarity and so on. So I think that there's a good overview story there, which can intrigue and fuel ambitious, committed business owners in terms of looking at the journey in some area that they never looked at. We've never thought of it that way, never answered that question of how high is high. Maybe.
Yeah, I just, based on we need to get ourselves, get it broken down enough that the leadership team could understand it. The owner could then, our responsibility is to make it seem as simple, not easy, but simplify it as best as possible. So the growth drive, 3 dimensions, is certainly good. Just even having them kind of take how can we put a little exercise there for them to do in a very quick manner, and kind of experience it firsthand on a very light method. But I'm just feeling a little lack of engagement on their part. They're listening. How do they get them to be an active listener at that point of the engagement, right? So
Joe, are you
I don't have the answer.
Are you referring to something between, so we have, and I'm not, so I'm gonna beat the gong, won't surprise you, but if we do a clarity level 1, whether we do it on a, whether we can do it individually or do it as a group, that might be, you can work through clarity level 1 in as little as a few minutes and as long as an afternoon workshop. And that gets them seeing the 3 dimensions, the power of the tool, and importantly, their collective perspective on the strategic capacity of the business, its ability to execute strategy. And that might be one of the answers. These are great conversations, guys. What a great roundtable this would be. Go ahead, Andy.
Joe, I think you're obviously referring in the EOS context to the 90-minute meeting, which is an overview of that whole process of EOS, and it's mapped out visually. I'm pretty sure if you took a visual representation of our analyze, design, execute, off design, imagine off design becomes a sub diagram of the 3 dimensions. would fit there, and off the whole thing you would fit in, you know, the 90-day world, bit like EOS does, you know, with the quarters and the annuals and stuff. And so you have then a yeah, that's right, a visual productization of growth drive effectively, and then you just talk about the component parts. It could be interactive because you would then begin to facilitate the idea of them choosing what stage of growth, you know, that they would be at. Are they a dimension 1, dimension 2? So you growth map them so they choose that aspect, if you like, and then you can zero in on that. But in that picture that you just shown there, and EOS does it, you've got the whole picture of growth drive to engage. Yeah, our process, it's a productized process effectively. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And Joe, I
Yeah,
did give your text, and that would be a great, didn't mean to turn off my video. And that would be a great graphic to have. I agree with you.
Ed and I have both been in knee deep into presenting this, and one of the things that seems to be missing and is the client experience, the whole client experience, right? So client mapping is very, very popular. We're doing that for a couple other things, but if we can map that client experience, less words, more visuals, keep it simple, just to kind of like, you know, that's what's our guarantee and what's our process, and that's what we coach people when we implement EOS, is that to understand, could you make a guarantee, and could you actually visualize the beginning and the end of the relationship? And that's where that, we were having a debate yesterday. Are we trying to present too much? Is 3-year, you know, timeline too much? Should we be thinking more towards, you know, capturing and then redeploying every year or every 6 months? Obviously, it's a very fluid process, but if we're trying to get somebody to commit to a 3-year process, most folks don't have that kind of, I would say patience is the right one, but they don't have that line of sight that allows them to think like that. So, you know, how do you boil a frog? You slowly turn the heat up on them. So we're trying to show the completed project. That's great. My experience has been that, you know, we need to kind of bring it down to a real fundamental, easy, got it, move on.
No, I agree with that, Joe. Quite a bit. I even had a prospect yesterday that I thought was going to pull the trigger on an initial 3-month engagement, 3 months, that included clarity, my leadership Lencioni Plus type survey, a couple other things, using assess and plan is before execute. And he says, I don't know if I have the capacity to think in 3 months right now. And I think that's a part of the initial discussions, like you're saying, Joe, is to understand where is that readiness, where's that capacity of this potential prospect. As it is, he said yes to working together, so that's great. But it took a little bit of work for him to see what was getting. I had to dissect what was getting in the way of him being ready, and then when we uncovered that, we were able to move through it. So that was where the conversation went. What is the roadblock to readiness, and recognizing doing this will help fix potentially that roadblock.
That's exactly right.
Well, that was the selling point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Ed and I've been working on this, you know, manufacturer, 17 million, 75 employees, 2 brothers are in the late 60s. Ed's done a business valuation with them. Clearly they need to, you know, move on. But I've reflected back on what the insurance carriers do. It's the loss mitigation, right? Is what are they going to lose by not acting versus what they're going to gain? Oftentimes you're able to get a change to occur because of this potential loss, you know, to a competitor or to, you know, some sort of, you have to kind of dive into their competitive nature, what they could lose, because right now standing still and no decision is a decision, but that seems safe. How do we make today where they are potentially risky? And we could talk about, life and, but how do we make that pain real enough to cause
Absolutely.
action and keep them
Absolutely.
at the
That's
table
the-
too. Don't let them back away from, you get into them or 2 months into it, and then they, oh, I'm getting busy, da 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 da. Everybody's got their excuses. So, I'd like to, with a workshop that a little bit later, but I just thinking that
This is
it's the goal implicated, right? What are the, okay, so you have a goal, and if we really nail down the goal, and we do, right? That's what where the growth conversation goes. When we get there, it's critical to ask the question, well, what happens what happens if that doesn't become true? Then what? And get them to verbalize. And it's part of many top, the sales process isn't convincing someone to do something they shouldn't do. It's helping them understand that what you're offering is going to benefit them, right? That there's a clear benefit, and that there's also a clear risk from not taking action. And you can decide to not take action, but think long term. And it's one of the techniques we can use to get our client out of the rolling 5 years. 5 years, 5
Right.
years, 5 years. How many times have
Yeah.
you guys heard it? And I'm actually
Right.
holding myself to account. We're on a 5-year plan, and it's funny, I'm deeply mindful that the first 6 months, we've chewed up 12.5% of that 5 years, and it keeps you focused. All right, guys, it's been almost an hour. I just want to make sure I'm getting into the conversation. I didn't realize it was already 10:30.
I think
Andy, you had a
I was
comment?
just, I think Joe raises an important point, and it shows maybe there is still a little gap in identifying and discussing and mapping out this customer experience.
Yeah.
And so that it becomes clear. We've got the various tools that we have, like the growth conversation, and the fact that that's where we're going to really throw up the pain and the gains and agitate that process in that conversation. The conversation takes as long as it takes, but at the same time, we want to reveal we can help them by helping them. Clarity could be used to do that. So it's sort of mapping that journey, if you like, the way that Joe and Ed have sorted, and saying, okay, what might that look like for a possible growth drive engagement, and showing it visually from start to finish, and rather than, maybe there's some merit in getting in a room to do that one day.
Yeah, let
Well,
me.
bring this over. Go ahead, Steve.
I've had a half dozen business owners tell me to go pound salt, to put it in layman's terms, recently. So, because they know everything, they get everything under control, and blah blah blah. So I'm on board with what Andy just said there.
Well, I will, I'm going to use to bring this full circle. I'm going to use beautiful AI, which you guys should go and check out, to take Joe's sketch and see if I can time efficiently create a graphic. And we should be able to. And so anyway.
Yeah, the thing that we is the readiness for change, right? So and you think about this for a minute, is that if someone has gone in and spent the money to implement, whether they self-implemented or brought an implementer in, they're spending somewhere between $60,000 to $100,000 to get that done. So I always look for a precondition filter, precondition to change, precondition to the leadership team wanting to be better, right? So we have a small percentile of the curve that we're going after. They're early adopters. This is probably only represent maybe 10% of the companies out there. So we have to continue to remember, like you were saying earlier, go pound salt, that this isn't for everybody, but we need to be able to find those key early indicators of wanting to change and wanted to challenge themselves and their leadership team. Those are the guys that spending the money to make themselves better. I just heard a story I called up one of my guys who we got up and running on EOS, and this has been 3 years now. They went from $30 million to $68 million, and they went back and challenged every assumption they made about the sales team, their process, and they were able to fundamentally change things. But it had started with the leader, started with the CEO, willingness to change and willingness to put everything at risk from a assumption wise. And I think we're maybe just sometimes we're just fishing the wrong hole. We got to find a new fishing hole, and a better way to determine that is what has their behaviors in the past indicate behaviors in the future. Listen, these guys are 40, 50, 60 years old men. They ain't changing, so we're all the change initiatives that we can try to create. We just got to move on, leave a couple pieces behind, and when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I'm trying to drink my own, take my own medicine. This is self-talk here, because I think, I'm very optimistic I can change the world, and every single entrepreneur needs me, right? Well, not every single entrepreneur is ready for this kind of conversation. So quicker we are to discern that, and the quicker we ought to move forward and quit wasting time on people that are just not ready.
So I'm gonna, Joe, I'm gonna have to jump in. This is, no, before I leave, this was, I think, actually critical. I think if you look at the evolution of business development for us, winning engagements through executing on the engagement, not being able to have this conversation, which I'm just starting to get better at, to your point, Joe, is critical for our community, because this is a difficult conversation to have. These are unique questions and a unique dialogue that most consultants don't have. And I think we need to spend more time here.
And if I may point you to, because this is about qualification, qualifying and getting the right client. And we had a go at doing that. And there is in the playbook, there is a